Hello everyone, welcome to Self-Knowledge. Today we have a very interesting lecture. We have lecture number 36 and today we'll learn how to achieve the state of meditation known as a samadhi or the illuminating void by using the koans. This is a very simple method to achieve this the connection and the reality of the sixth and the seventh dimensions of nature that are governed for only three laws in contrast with this physical world where we are subject to 48 laws. So experiencing this meditation, experiencing being free of the ego for a while and be one with our own inner being actually changes our perception of life and make us understand the urgency of making a radical change within ourselves and the urgency of freeing ourselves from the heaviness and the mechanicalness to which our ego has subjected us. So when one returns from this type of meditations, we come with great strength to continue our inner work and to get to permanently reach those states of fullness and happiness. So today's lecture objective will be to learn this technique that allow us to know and to experience the higher dimensions of nature. So let's start by talking a little about what meditation is. Meditation is the way to, by achieving inner silence, to connect with our own inner wisdom. It is said that meditation is the bread of the wise. And that is because when we meditate, we feed ourselves internally. And we feed ourselves internally when we eliminate our ego, which is the ignorance in us, and we connect and we receive the wisdom from our own internal Father. And there, the need of learning to meditate, because whoever doesn't know how to meditate will never be able to dissolve the ego. And to really learn to meditate, the first thing that we have to keep in mind is that we must begin to become serious. And we must stop drifting between so many meditations that abound everywhere and that don't lead us to really experience changes in ourselves. We can find many types of meditations, but we can summarize them into two general types: the contemplative meditations and the transcendental meditations. The contemplative meditations are actually a real waste of time if we really want to advance in our inner work, because there are meditations that are not going to lead us to achieve changes in ourselves. They are, yes, very beautiful meditations, which lead us to feel relaxed, to feel a moment of harmony and peace when listening to relaxing sounds or when concentrating on something. But it is a state that lasts as long as the meditation lasts, since as it doesn't lead us to an inner change, real change inside us. As soon as we get out of this meditation and we start facing the inevitable circumstances of our lives, like disappointments or arguments or an accident or any identification with any circumstances or any problem, we immediately lose that state of harmony that we had achieved with that meditation. So it actually doesn't lead us to make changes. On the contrary, meditations of a transcendental nature are going to lead us to achieve changes within ourselves, because every time we come out of one of these meditations, we will be different people. We'll bring understanding that will lead us to radically change our inner world, and by law of correspondence, to change our lives. Here in this self-knowledge course, we already learned one of these meditations, which is the reflective meditation. We learned that meditation in lecture number 22. There we saw that reflective meditation consists of bringing to meditation a lived scene in which it has been like strongly manifested a psychological defect that we want to work on, that we want to eradicate completely from our psychology. Let's say, for example, we want to work on our fear. So in that meditation, we are going to observe in detail the manifestation of that psychological defect in that scene that we experienced. And we are going to observe there what the fear made us think, what it made us imagine, what it made us feel, what it made us desire. And at the same time that we are observing all of those details, we are going to be understanding them, and we are going to consciously eliminating them with the help of our Divine Mother. And each of these meditations, these reflective meditations, will lead us to self-transformation. Since the next time that we see ourselves in a circumstance in which that defect usually manifests, we no longer react in the same way. Since now we will have an understanding about the defect that will lead us to now act consciously without being any more subjected or enslaved by that defect. So the wonderful thing is that we can do that meditation with every psychological defect that we have. Maybe anger, jealousy, depression, anxiety, any trauma, any phobia, etc. And you can find that meditation, as I said, here in the page, in the video section, video number 22, the reflective meditation. And the second type of transcendental meditation is what we will learn today, which is the meditation with koans. That is the meditation that will allow us to access the sixth and the seventh dimension with the help of the koans. The koans will help us to gag the ego so we can release the essence, so we can escape and ascend to the higher dimensions or heavens. Because as we saw in lecture number 5, where we talk about the dimensions and where they are in us, we saw how those 7 basic dimensions that we find in nature also have a representation inside us. And that is by getting inside ourselves how we can connect to these dimensions. The first 5 dimensions are what can be called as earth, while in the 6th and the 7th dimensions we are going to find the so-called kingdom of heaven. And in the first part of the 6th dimension we will find the causal world, and by getting there we will be able to know the cause of all things. Actually, there is where you find the Akashic records of the nature. And by getting there, you can get to know the cause or the origin of each one of our wrong ways of being. So, by just getting there, we will receive important information that will help us to advance in the disintegration of our ego. In the higher part of the 6th dimension, we will find the world of the truth. And in the 7th dimension, we will connect directly with the great reality or the ocean of light. So in this meditation, we are going to make our essence ascend from the lowest part of the earth, where our essence is found, in the sexual center, where the seat of this 3rd dimension is in us. And it will go up through that tunnel of light, just like when one dies. And that is why detachment sometimes causes terror in this meditation, but we have to overcome that terror. We must relax and let ourselves go in that tunnel of light until we access the light of those higher dimensions and experience the reality of the sixth and the seventh dimensions. But if you have ever tried to meditate, you realized that the mind is a terrible obstacle to achieve meditation. When we try to concentrate, there are all kind of thoughts, emotions, and even sensations all over the body appear, and all of them are manifestations of our ego that is not interested at all in letting our essence to become free to go out. Therefore, to reach the state of meditation, it will be necessary to gag the ego so that the essence can ascend. And as we saw in the Law of the Pendulum lecture, our ego is dual. It moves from the positive to the negative streams of our psychology. So inside us, we find all kinds of negative thoughts, negative emotions, and negative sensations such as passivity, negativity, suffering, decadence, materialism, displeasure, etc. And we are also going to find in our psychology thoughts, emotions, and sensations at the other extreme, where we find activity, we find pleasure, we find splendor, spiritualism, etc. And if we manage to find the center, the critical point, where neither one extreme nor the other is manifested, we will find inner silence. We will reach the stillness of the mind. So, how are we going to get to that point, to the stillness of the mind? Well, we are going to use a very simple method. We will do it with the power of our imagination. So, the first thing that we are going to do is that we are going to put an evolutionary thought by imagining the growth process of something. It can be a fruit plant, a flower plant, an animal, the construction of a house, the formation of a human being, or whatever it is that you can easily imagine in as much detail as possible. A very simple example it is to imagine that we plant some little seeds and they germinate until they sprout and it is growing, little leaves, buds, flowers, etc. or fruit, whatever, until it reaches like the peak of its development and where it is like vigorous, beautiful, and fragrant. And in this way, by imagining all this, we are going to be putting into activity all the parts corresponding to the positive stream of our psychology. And then we put an involutionary thought. What we will do is that we are going to imagine now the whole process of decrease and death of that thing. Give me a second. Here you have the example. And there we are going to imagine how the plant in this example begins to dry up, to lose its flowers, to turn yellowish, then to dry up completely until it breaks and there is nothing left of that beautiful plant. With this process, the entire negative stream of our psychology is put into activity, and upon reaching like the starting point where nothing remains, you are going to experience the stillness of the mind. At that moment, we are going to put the koan to leave the ego like get, so that the essence can easily escape and can ascend to the superior dimensions, to the sixth and the seventh dimension. Now, what is a koan? Well, a koan is a question without an answer, generally paradoxical. The mind always attempts to answer in some way, but it cannot answer because it doesn't know the answer. And what happens that the thought process becomes exhausted, and that allows the consciousness to arise. Because when the ego is silenced, the essence becomes liberated briefly. There are actually many koans, but here I'm going to leave you 4 examples that are quite effective. The first one is, if 2 hands, you are going to ask yourself, if 2 hands clapping make a sound, what sound did one make? There we wait for the answer until the essence escapes. The second one that you can use is, if everything reduces to oneness, then what does oneness reduce to? And we there remain still and silent, waiting for the breakthrough. The third one that we can use is that we ask ourselves, where is truth? That is, there we wait for the answer. If the mind attempts to give any answer, we just ignore it as it is not the truth, and we wait for the mind to get exhausted without finding the answer, and there the essence is going to escape. The fourth one that we can use is that we ask ourselves, where is emptiness? This is another question without an answer, and when we see an opening, then we enter that opening, because when we put this koan, we are waiting for an opening. So we only ask ourselves, where is emptiness? Until we discover the opening. The koan, you are going to concentrate in the koan until the breakthrough is achieved. The first one that is listed here is actually very effective. To imagine the sound of one hand clapping until the breakthrough is achieved. It is actually very, very effective. Something that is important to take into account is that we must use only one koan per practice. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to briefly explain to you how the practice is done step by step, so that you are encouraged to do it from today, to have to experience the connection that this meditation make you experience. So the first step will be to find a peaceful place to do the practice. It can be practiced during the day, at night, whatever. You can do it in the office or any place where you are not disturbed by anyone else, or even in a room dedicated just for meditation. And you will see the importance of having such a room or space solely used for this purpose. This is a space dedicated for seeking inspiration and wisdom, and therefore it is a very special place. What we are going to do is that we are going to harmonize the environment by removing negative energies from the place where we are going to make the practice, and we are going to harmonize the place, to clean, energetically clean the place with the song of the belly ling, and we are going to energetically close the space so that the negative energies cannot re-enter, by making the magic circle of protection that we learned in lecture number 7, the lecture of the conjurations, that is here in the page in the video section, in case you haven't seen that lecture. Then we are going to plead for assistance to that upper part of our consciousness, that is our inner being, our internal father, and our divine mother. So we are going to ask our being to guide us and to assist us in this practice. And the next step will be to make a relaxation process to relax our emotion, our mind, and our physical body. And to relax our emotions, we are going to relax it by breathing deeply for a few minutes, inhaling slowly and long through the nose, retaining, and then exhaling through the mouth. Like, you're going to inhale, retain, and then for, let's say, a minute until you feel your emotion is already relaxed. Then you are going to relax your mind, and for that, what we do is that we concentrate for a few minutes, on all the sounds that are around without identifying with them. We are going to just pay attention to the sounds and we are going to let them go. We listen to another sound and we let the sound go. And each time we are going to look for more distant sounds and we let them go and then we come back until we come to listen to our heartbeat. And there you experience how the mind just like relax. And then you are going to make a relaxation of the physical body. A very simple relaxation, just feeling the body very comfortable so that nothing is disturbing it. It is recommended to scan with imagination the whole body. And when we are feeling very relaxed there, we pass to the following step. And in this step, what we are going to do is that we are going to put the evolutionary thought. And there we are going to imagine in as much detail as possible how something grows. For example, a plant that we plant a rose. We put the seed, for example, and we are going to imagine how we pour water on it, how we fertilize the ground, how we put the flower in the sun, and we are going to observe how it grows, how the buds begin to appear, how they start to blossom, and how the rose bush is full of beauty. One can even at that point feel its aroma. And there we are going to put the evolutionary thought. And we are going to imagine how the petals begin to dry up and wither, that no more blossoms are emerging, that the petals fall, that the plant begins to dry up completely. We are going to imagine how the wind knocks all over and how the wind carries the dried up stems and leaves and nothing is left. And there, when we achieve that point, which is the synthesis of thought, the stillness of mind, we apply the koan. And we make ourselves the question, if these two hands when clapping sound like this, what sound did one make? And there you are going to wait because the koan is going to act as a barricade for the ego and the essence will be able to arise free. And you are going to stay concentrated in the koan until that breakthrough is achieved. As simple as that is the practice, the technique. There are symptoms that you may feel and that will let you know that you are achieving the meditation state. You can feel, for example, that you start detaching from the physical world, from the physical body. You could start seeing a tunnel of light and that you are begin to be absorbed by this tunnel. At that point, don't be scared. Let yourself go towards the light. And if you get too afraid, then you need to work on your attachments, as we learned in the previous lecture. And you could also find yourself consciously imagining or lucid dreaming. And there you can move at will. And you could feel like vertigo, and you can start feeling a sense of unity or a sense of becoming one with your own inner being. And those are some of the symptoms that you can feel at that point when you are getting to the point. And I hope that you are encouraged to do this practice and to experience by yourself how your essence becomes free and start sending to the higher dimensions and having your own inner experiences. And remember that you must practice patiently until you achieve this meditation. Remember that practice is what makes perfect. And actually, this has been today's lecture. This is the practice that I want to that I bring to you today, and I want to invite you to our next lecture because next Sunday we will learn another practice. It is a very simple and a very quite effective method to achieve the astral projection, and it is a method known as the jump. So don't miss next lecture because it is very interesting and it is a very useful technique. So thank you very much to all who connect to this video, and see you next Sunday in the next lecture. Bye bye.